Goeiedag and welcome. My name is Amareiske and today I will do my wrap up of February. And the first book I read, or the Inept is more the word of it, is Een Hart van Steen by Renate Dorrestein. And this is kind of a mystery type book that is about a female who goes back to her family home years and years after she left because something violent happened, but you don't exactly know what did happen. And that is the point of finding out in this book, because she goes back through all her memories and probably in the end they will tell you what happens. What the point was is every time I was either reading or listening to the audiobook for this one, I found myself intrigued enough to listen on, but when I had to stop, either because I had to leave my home or because I wanted to sleep, and I woke up again or I came back, I just was not inclined to pick it up. I did not care in the slightest for how it ended when I wasn't reading. And like I said, I did not have any incentive to pick it back up again. So I just, after 3 or 4 tries, decided to DNF this book and leave it be. Go on with The Magicians by Lev Grossman, part 1 in the Magicians trilogy. And I already have a review up on my channel about this book, so I will not go into depth. This is the story about Quentin and some other people who discover that magical powers actually do exist, and our Quentin is obsessed with Fillory, a magical land of his childhood, or like middle grade-ish books that he was a fan of. And yeah, that's what I say. You can check the review in the cards somewhere, I think, as you can do for The Magician King by Lev Grossman, which is part 2 in the trilogy, in which the story goes on, and I cannot even tell you the beginning because that directly spoils the ending of the first. I have read these books and listened to the audiobooks in the same time, and I got a totally magical feel out of these ones. I truly enjoyed it. Mostly this one. It's like an obvious Chronicles of Narnia retelling with depressed, sad, maybe slightly or even more than slightly autistic, extremely smart, bickering, more adult-like characters, which I enjoyed. And also, this prompted me to go and do a reread of Narnia, because if this series is a retelling, the third book of course is a retelling of the final books, which it was, The Silver Chair and The Last Battle. It was a retelling of that, and I had forgotten, so it prompted me to do a reread of the Chronicles of Narnia, but like afterwards, after I finished the books, and I discovered that the Narnia books are extremely Christian preachy, especially the last ones. Final Battle, in that book it overshadowed so much, like it's not for this point, but what my point was meant to be is these books don't really have those Christian undertones at all. Lev Grossman just picked up the Chronicles of Narnia part that he could use in his story, and he gave a twist to it, which I think is really great, and it created like a magical world. I don't even thought Quentin was an unlikable character until the final book, which is kind of sad. Yes, he does some rude things, but I did not get a feeling that he did do it on purpose. And yes, the people are not always nice, but like, that's life. People aren't always nice, and like, especially when you are in an environment with a lot of extremely smart people, it's going to happen. Like, people are going to be the best of the best. They know a lot, they understand a lot, and they are going to say what they think, sometimes without a filter, which is what happens in the book. I found it quite realistic, even though not all the characters are dislikable. After this, I did read or listen to Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which, for my taste, it was too plot driven, and I missed some things in character and world building, and even, not in the plot, but mostly character building and world building. But I also had a feeling that like it was as complete as it needed to be, which is why I have no clue how I would change it, but it was just too plot driven for me. I did not get a feeling truly liking or understanding the characters at all. Like, it just felt sometimes even annoyingly like, well, if it's so annoying, do something about it. And I don't mean like the general hierarchy in the books, but there were some things happening in that book, that, I mean, they complain and they do not really do anything. or it just felt like some kind of a Hunger Games. And I didn't even read or watch the Hunger Games because it does not appeal to me. Our world is already dark enough at most times, so I did not feel the need to read anything that is even darker. But it had some kind of that feel of being in a competition. People got killed, yet you never truly saw the killing happen. Like, it took me more than 60% of the book to even get into it, and even then I still considered DNFing the book because I still did not really think it was to my liking, and I already listened to the audiobook at a certain point at 2 times speed. Not to say the audiobook was good. I think if you like the books, you will probably also really like the audiobooks. I think they were well done, or at least the first one. It was well narrated, and I will now go on to The Magician's Land by Lev Grossman, which is the final book I read completely in February. I started 2 other books, but I did not finish them. This is also by Lev Grossman. It's the final part in the Magician's trilogy. And I have to say that even though I can totally see the Chronicles of Narnia retelling, the ending, it made me kind of sad. And let me tell you why. This is not even necessarily a spoiler. I might spoil 1 or 2 sentences, but like, it's out of context. At the end, Quentin says, oh, by the way, in book 1 it turns out like they go to school, and afterwards pretty quickly it turns out that Fillory is real, and all the twists I thought were really fun, and how Lev Grossman did it. As it goes for the twists on the things that happened in the Silver Chair and the final battle. But in the second book it's also revealed that Quentin has Asperger's. It's not really like revealed in the most subtle, well thought through way, and it's not really revealed in a way that's very respectful to people who actually do have trouble adjusting to society because of it. People like me, like I also have autism. And in the end, Quentin says that he doesn't feel at home in Fillory anymore, and he doesn't want to go back to Earth, at least for now, and he just will see what happens and when he comes back. With literally the sentences, he did not feel at home there anymore. He had grown up. And for people who don't know, autism has as one of the symptoms magical thinking, and also one is being or having a difficulty separating truth and fantasy from one another, which makes those people usually very, especially when they are very smart, like very scientifically driven, they can think up new theories and new explanations for why this stuff works, how it works. But they also can live in a very like fantasy world, which is what you hear happen of especially children, but it's actually maybe something people learn how to cope with, how to deal with, or they might use it as a coping strategy. But I believe that if you have that, and I speak from my own experience here, you don't really grow out of it, like it changes how you experience it. But to say that someone grows up and that makes him or her grow out of it, it's just fully untrue. It just changes how you experience it, but it doesn't go away. You don't just grow up and don't care about something anymore when you have been obsessed with it from like your 10th until your 29th or something. That's not realistic. Like all of a sudden he makes a 180 turn. Well, he sort of does it when he comes back, but in the end it's very clear, and I was like kind of sad because of that. And also because Quentin turns into more of an insufferable character in this book than in the first book. Because in this book he does some of the stuff that can be considered rude or unkind on purpose, and he fully drives through some of his own things that he needs to do and wants to do over stuff that obviously is meant to be way more important than his stuff. And I will not spoil anything because that will spoil the first book also, like at least in part, so that's not the way to go. But I will leave it here. Thank you for watching. If you liked or read one of those books, comment down below and tell me what you thought of it. Thank you for watching, and like and subscribe if you want to, and on to de keer!